Hello, uh, my name is Andrew Shepard. I'm joined by my guest, Rohit Juneja.
Hi.
Coming. We're going to be talking about romantic idealism, which I consider to be a beautiful yet devastating condition, addiction that we have in society today. And I think we need to explore it so we can navigate love in a more intelligent way than we have been. So, Rohit, I'm going to start off by asking you this very fundamental question. Is this romantic idealism that we've been living with based on our cultural system, or is there some sort of genetic backbone that actually underguides the love relationships that we've been projecting and living out?
If you're referring to our search for the ideal mate, if you're talking about the way we go about searching for the one, then I think what we call chemistry and what we call this un, unexplainable search that we have really seems to strive out of a genetic urge to find the best mating partner that we can. So it's operating at many different levels, and I think that's the primal instinct, to find the biological match. And much as we think in idealistic terms, that's the bottom line of what we call chemistry.
So when we're going after people and we're holding them up as the most sacred, beautiful thing ever, the only one I can be with, that's more of a biological idea of needing to have the right mate. And
I
it's
think it's important to take a look at just a short little thing of what goes on in the rest of the world and what's been going on in history for hundreds of years. For hundreds of years, people didn't fall in love and get married. Their marriages were arranged by parents, by society, all of that. And it was done based upon breeding. It was done based on intellect, wealth, things like that. People of a similar type get married to a similar type. Snow White gets married. The Princess Snow White, well, she was originally a princess, so yeah, you really see her as that, looks for a prince. She doesn't look for a pauper. When somebody does, like in the case of Princess Jasmine, fall for a pauper, like Aladdin, it's a big deal, because they would usually marry someone of their own type. And that was usually arranged. In fact, in ancient times, it was arranged by the parents even before the child reached puberty. So it's only in recent times that all that has changed, and we now look for an ideal lover. But this time, those who are more intelligent and who are not following their heart and their passions, they will look for somebody who is successful, well-to-do, will give them security, and so on and so forth. But for most, the idealism is so strong, they're not even looking at that stuff. So when you take away the practical aspect, what you normally settle into is the biological aspect, where you're looking really at someone who's going to be the best breeder for your offspring. That's usually what's driving this force. That is at the surface level. I will go deeper into the more spiritual aspect of this as well. But let's get this on the table first.
right. So it's biological. We're talking about basic attraction, fundamental attraction, high mating value, attractive symmetrical features, great for offspring. But what about the cultural level that seems to be so dominant, where women who have a nesting instinct, tend to seek out powerful, successful, driven men who can provide for them, or they can have a structure that they can nest into. How is that such a that has become quite a different thing in the world today? There's still the biological, still attractiveness is a major factor, but a lot of women will give up an attractive male to get a wealthy male.
Uh-huh. And that now is when a woman has maybe gone through one or two experiences. She's usually had her first love and maybe a few, and now she's thinking a little practically. Now she's thinking, okay, I need someone who's going to be with me as a co-parent, who's going to be there with me through the journey of life, who's going to take care of me while I'm pregnant. There are some very practical, real-life situations that she now starts to consider at that point. And it's at that stage that, with a little wisdom and a little bit of experience, she starts to look for someone of that kind. But is this really love? And for me, or is this just something that is as practically driven as motivated by need and security and safety and almost exploitative in a way? I want you because, not because at one level I love you, but really it's because of what you provide. If you weren't the person who was providing, would I still love you? Do I love you for who you are? So if I'm going to look at love from that idealistic viewpoint of unconditional love, would I call the woman or man who's looking, the man who's looking for a woman who is extremely beautiful, or the woman who's looking for a man who's extremely successful? Much of their love is driven by requirements that they have that need to be fulfilled for them to love that person. In other words, conditions. And when those conditions are no longer there, then obviously they'll fall out of love with that person. If that person loses their wealth, if that woman loses her beauty or becomes older, then all of that starts to crumble. So far what we have been playing with is either the flush of first love, which may be driven by ideals, or then we get more practical and we start looking for suitable mating partners, and now we're coming to the level of something that is functional, conditional, but really not the place of unconditional love. True love hasn't begun yet. We're starting, and we think it's true love, but unfortunately the results are right in front of us. We've got a 60% rate of people having affairs, which means they're not satisfied. They're looking, very likely not satisfied and looking elsewhere. 50% divorce rate, and we've got a relationship paradigm that is, by all statistical evidence, flawed and faulty. It absolutely isn't working. We're calling it love. I don't call it love. I call it exploitation.
I think that when people fall in love, when I see people, or I've experienced in myself, this incredible, like, oh my God, this person is so special. Whoa, this person is unlike anyone I've met before. That must mean something. Ooh, this chemistry that I'm feeling, that must mean something at a cosmic level. We are meant to be together. This is the one. This is the perfect match for me. This type of thinking, I think, is born out of our cultural and literature ideals as possibly nothing to do with reality, but we've projected all in, right. and then we lie in the bed that we have created. We basically get hooked.
Which is why it doesn't work, because it really wasn't a match. Our symptoms that we are looking for, our indicators that we have, are absolutely flawed. What we've got is this: A, we've got a DNA match going on one level. B, we've got karmic stuff going on. That is to say, let's say I was abused as a child. I will seek out a partner who will abuse me now, as an adult. I will seek out someone who will repeat my childhood stuff to me. So in other words, that's what we call the karmic match. Someone who is going to treat me the way I was treated. Maybe my parent was absent when I was a child. I will choose someone who is emotionally absent as an adult. And thirdly, we look for someone who is going to fulfill our needs, whereas most of the time they're not looking at fulfilling your needs, they're looking at fulfilling their own, and their needs are very different than your needs. And so there's this mismatch happening all the time. The end result is, really speaking, the whole system that we use for falling in love, for what we recognize as love, doesn't work, and it cannot work. There'll be some rare case in which it works out, but the majority of people who are together in a relationship, it will invariably, within 6 months, a year, 2 years max, it will go from wild, passionate love and sexuality to basically companionship. It will become a friendship. They will now become roommates. They will, if at best, they will learn to live together. But will they be in love the way they were? No, very unlikely. So they'll become parents, co-parents.
Right. And so basically those who are in love with being in love, who have been hooked and sunken on the idea of romantic idealism, we'll end up leaving that wonderful friendship and trying to pursue something else that's more exciting, where the chemistry is electrical, where it kind of can grab them and capture them and make them feel all these incredible brain chemicals once again, but not necessarily end in anything different than what they already have.
So a lot of folks have gotten wise to all of this, and they've decided to be single. And now what they're doing is they're hooked on exactly that brain chemistry. They're actually figured it out. You know, falling in love is the best part of being of this whole game. So let's just fall in love, ride it for as long as it lasts, 5 months, 6 months, a year, and then break it off and move on to the next, and get the next rush, and get the next rush, and get the next rush. So they never learn to sustain anything, and they never learn to really create long-lasting, deep, passionate, intimate, ever-increasing love. Unfortunately, that's not the place that we've been. We're basically in the cycle of falling in love, which means falling in love is more about the passion falling, the chemistry falling. It's a waning kind of love. We haven't come to a kind of love that is increasing love or rising love. That's the invitation I think we need to start looking at.
I think it's so interesting when people fall in love and they feel like they're out of control, like they are not in control of the situation anymore. It's up. It's the cosmic universe or the God has taken them over, and they have no choice in the matter. And that feels really good to them, to not be in control anymore, because they've probably been rigidly in control of their lives up until that point.
There is an element of truth in all of that. And the truth that I see in it is that the impulse to love and be loved is spiritually driven. The reason we look for the one is because, and it's such an inbuilt thing. Now, I know the whole social part and the genetic part and everything that we've talked about, but there is a spiritual element to this whole thing. There is a part of us that is looking for the one, the perfect lover, the ideal being, the one who is like no other. And in truth, that is not a human. As a spiritual truth, that is not any human, because neither are you, nor I, nor anyone the perfect one. Everyone here is imperfect. Everyone here will get old, diseased, and die. Everyone here is highly imperfect. They may look perfect to you for a little while. The woman may look beautiful, but very shortly her skin will wrinkle and fade, and her beauty will die. There is not, and then you'll be starting to look for the next one. That man will no longer be appealing the way he was when you first met him. It is absolutely going to happen. But the impulse to look for that is spiritually driven. What lies behind the beauty of the external beauty that we see, the external wealth that we see, the external knowledge that we see in a person, or charisma, or all of that, is only a shadow of the real thing. Now, as you go deeper into that person, you will discover that behind the external lies an internal beauty. That might be the mind. That might be the first level you'll come across. And if you go even deeper than the mind, you'll discover their soul. Now, that's a part that isn't going to change. That is going to stay beautiful always. But the interesting thing about that is that soul is there in everyone. And it's beautiful in everyone. And it's actually the same, almost the same in everyone. It might have a few unique things, but it isn't very different. So you could literally fall in love with anyone. And therefore, you would find yourself in a very perplexing situation that I think we need to take up. Before we take that part up, I want to read you a little passage from my book, Loving Soulfully. And I do cover this topic very extensively, but there's one part where I cover it at, just succinctly to the point. I say, love is the one. No one can be your one true love. No one can complete or fulfill you. No one can be the right one for you. The one you seek is the source of all. The one true love who will never forsake you, never hurt you, and never break your heart. Seek not the one who will be all and everything for you. Seek instead to love the one within yourself, that is your soul, the one in those you hold dear, see them as a spiritual being, and the one in everyone, to see that infinite, that divine being, that divine presence in everyone. Love the one in all, the one as in the divine presence in all, and be all in one. So, yeah, where would you like to take it from here?
Puts a whole new twist on the classic song, "When I fall in love,
Oh yeah,
we'll be forever."
that's what we want, right? Forever love, and forever love is a spiritual love. It's because only this only spirit is forever. And when you look at it from that perspective, you understand the impulse that we all have. We're looking for forever love. We're looking for eternal love. We're looking for in whatever way.
No matter how you do it, if you try to use a vehicle, a relationship as supplanting that deeper reality, try to use this shadow, as you put it, a shadow of the real love as the real love, you're going to fail. Because that relationship is going to end. Every relationship ends eventually.
My invitation to you is to find someone who you enjoy being with and to invite that divine presence to come through this person and then become a lover of love. Because that divine presence is love. That which you call God, that which you call the universe or source, its primal energy is love. In fact, love is what flows through you to your lover when you allow that. In fact, if you were to allow yourself to be open, you could love everyone. Great people like, say, the Dalai Lama or any other great spiritual teacher, Christ, all of them taught the same idea. They were in love with everyone. And what they were in love with was the divine spark within everyone. So if you allow that divine spark to move through you, it will want to love everybody. And it will want, everyone will become your lover. So there's another part here where I write, talk about becoming a lover of love. Make love with everything and everyone. Make love with your eyes, nose, ears, words, and touch. In other words, not just, love is not just from the heart, it's not just from the genitals, but with every part of your body, with your eyes, nose, ears, words, and touch. Make love with your mind, heart, and body. Make love with everything you do. Make love your God, your religion, and your meditation. Make love your priority, life purpose, and reason for living. Make love your inspiration, ecstasy, and passion. Make love your greatest possession. Make love your true identity. So really becoming a lover of love. Becoming identified as love. I think you had a question somewhere in there about what would happen if we were to do that, right?
What would be the ground zero for relationships, given what you've been saying? The ground zero without romantic idealism, without any cultural assumptions.
What are your thoughts on that? I'd love to hear, you know, I might get a little too wild on this thought, so I'm like, I mean, that's such a great question.
I give us a framework of sorts.
Pick out the framework, and I'm like running on a high now. Oh my God! Now what can we do?
Well, let's say this. Let's say there is a biological factor that we can't completely turn off. We can't turn off this physical attraction to one another. So at that level, we've got some sort of backbone, some sort of structure that we have to deal with. Right. That structure is this: just people who are physically attractive get us a little bit turned on. Our brain chemicals start flowing. We get excited.
Sure.
That's fine. We don't need to judge that. It's like, oh, that's so shallow. It's just, no, that is what it is. But there's more. There's more that we can explore. And so basically, I would like to let go of all of the till death do us part, the only one for me. That kind of stuff is not necessary. You're going to meet incredibly unique people throughout your life that are awesome, that turn you on at a physical level, and if you can reach them at a mental level, they're like, wow, this person is an incredible thinker. I love the way this person's mind works. And even at a soulful level, we're like, wow, I see the divine in this human being. But perhaps there are no relationship structures that are legal. Perhaps it is just a matter of giving and receiving love. Obviously, this is not taking into consideration the needs of child rearing and all that, although that is possibly handled in other ways. than the traditional marriage vehicle.
Right. There's something being called relationship anarchy now that kind of deals with this whole idea, looking at things from a completely fresh perspective. But let's talk about the first thing, the area of attractiveness, the impulse towards a certain kind of body type, and all of that. I think it's really important what you're saying. Um, let me give you an example. This example is about how I was addicted to sugar, and I used to love sweet things. And in time, I began to see that it was having a really dangerous impact on my body. I started to read about it. I started to understand how harmful it is, and so on. And then I found alternatives that tasted like sugar, but weren't sugar. Similarly, the brain chemicals that are generated by the DNA of attraction, or the impulse that makes you seek a genetic match, may not be the best for your mind and may not be the best for your spiritual advancement. So in terms of being able to find that, I recognize that, just like I recognize the need for sweetness, and I turn to things like stevia, agave, whatever it is, I found alternatives that were natural and healthy. In the same way, I can recognize that we need someone who is attractive to us. However, the more we let go the stereotypes and look deeper into that person, into their mind, into their heart, into their nature, and into their soul, we will develop a much deeper understanding, and by which we will be able to draw to ourselves and into our lives people who are truly at the same vibrational level where we are, and will have a more fulfilling relationship with that kind of person, a more long-lasting and more satisfying relationship. Because if they're not at the same level, here you are, you know how to be peaceful and calm under different circumstances. The other person's flipping out every time something comes up. They're reactive. They're angry. They're hostile. Now you've got a ton of drama in your life, whereas you've been working on being able to cultivate a certain inner peace and resilience, and so on and so forth. So you'll find a huge mismatch if you're not looking at the spiritual aspect and the personality at a much deeper level. What I'm trying to say here is, make that the priority instead of just keeping the attraction and the chemistry as the top level of your hierarchy. Keep the spiritual vibrational level of that person as the top part of the hierarchy, and the attractiveness factor somewhere down at the bottom. Thereby, you're still recognizing that it's there, but it's not the number one indicator of what's going to be a healthy, long-term, good relationship.
That sounds like a different paradigm than we are living in today, for the most part. That doesn't definitely sounds like something that we have tried. We have leaned in that direction. That when people grow up, they tend to start maturing in that way. Start to go, well, wait a minute. I've slept with lots of very attractive people, or but it's not fulfilling me. I don't feel like that's going anywhere. I'm getting tired of that.
I've been saying it for a long time. I said, give me the most beautiful woman in the world, and I probably not want to be with her. Give me any number of them, but that is not the criteria that I look for. I look for someone who can really see me eye to eye. I find a lot of people talk that they want this, but they're not willing to go there. I see a lot of men saying this. I hear a lot of women talking about it. Since I'm a man, I'll talk about what women say. I hear them talk about, for example, that they want spiritually evolved guys. What I notice is that they don't go for the spiritually evolved guy. They go for the cute guy. No. Don't tell me that that's not true. They go for the guy who is perhaps, not the nice guy, but the guy who's actually kind of the bad boy, and who kind of doesn't treat them so good. Which means basically they're setting themselves up for karmic abuse, essentially. Okay, they're not choosing wisely. They are not choosing from the place that is actually beneficial for a long-term relationship. Likewise, I see men doing that. They want to have the woman with the bigger breasts, or the woman with the better figure, or the one with the whatever other criteria they might be using. Completely false indicators of what is going to be a good relationship.
Right. They're drugs. They're drugged, basically.
They're drugs. Yes, they're generating certain chemicals in your body, which you're calling chemistry, and that chemistry is explosive. It's disastrous. Stop. But you know what? You've asked an even bigger question. If we really took it outside the box, what would our relationships look like? And I'd love to take a few minutes with that.
Sure.
What do you think?
I think it would look much more communal, much more. I guess when I say tribal, I mean in a just sort of a grid, a network, a matrix of relationships and connections that are all of value. And then, but yes, I mean, like, you literally could have some relationships that are between very young people and very old people that are not necessarily sexual, but that those are the most important relationships for a period of time in those people's lives, where it's really about that heart connection. What, and not what can I get, but what can I give. I think that's something that we need to concentrate on. What is my heart leading me to express, and who needs to feel that expression right now?
So one of the things that I found on my journey is that if we really allow it to happen, we can break out of the mold of attractiveness, and we can start to come to the place of more of what is called agape, or universal love. And when I express this, people find it a little bit extreme, but I really say to people, I love you, and you, and you, and you. I really do find that if I let go because I challenge my mind, I challenge the constructs that it has, and I say, you know what, I'm not going to buy into your stuff, and I'm not going to let you control me. That is my mind. But rather, I'm choosing for my heart, and I'm choosing for my soul to lead the way, right? And what my soul wants to do is to love everybody, whether they're fat or they're thin. And I know I have to break through some of the paradigms in my own mind, but step by step, whether they're young, old, whatever it is, I'm learning to let go of that. And I think we all can. We can break through those paradigms, the things that are controlling our mind, that were brainwashed into us through media, and we can start loving many people. Now, single people do this to some extent. They have many lovers. They just go from one to the next, the next, the next, in the process of so-called looking for this ideal mate. But what would it be like if we just had that as a way of living? We had many different lovers who brought up different facets in us. Someone inspires you, like you said. Someone has a great sense of humor. Somebody has great intellect. Somebody has, great sexual passion. Someone's got some other quality. You're not trying to find everything in one person, but you're recognizing the beauty of each person wherever they're at, right? So having that kind of multiple lovers, having people, and not necessarily trying to make anyone the perfect one, but rather a kaleidoscope of different elements coming in from different places, and being able to love each one for where they're at. No one needing to be the perfect one.
And that sounds to a Western Christian perspective so immoral, so wrong, and yet it does.
I love immoral. It's high time we become immoral. Can we just, for God's sake, get off the morality bit? Who says God is moral? I don't believe God is moral at all. I think God is highly immoral. I think we need to really reframe and redefine. You will get to hear about that in my next book called God, You Sexy Devil.
I look forward to reading.
Morality of God.
Well, I think if we redefine what we're talking about, if we define our terms with ethics and morality, and we really talk about what is for the greater good, what is serving love, which most people say God is love, what is serving love over structural needs of society, and even meeting the structural needs of society, but serving love first and foremost. I think then, our traditional senses of morality begin to shatter.
Yeah, because all our traditional senses of morality are there to create guilt and shame, to repress us, to make us feel guilty, to make us feel afraid, whereas we're not harming anybody. We're not harming anyone by loving a lot of people. All you've got to do is be honest about it. And I think that serves everyone. There are certain things that just serve everyone. Honesty is one of them. And caring is another. And compassion is another. And living from the heart and being truthful is just a part of being a good human being. I think we can all relate to that. We don't have to make it. Now, because there is repression, people lie. But do you lie to your best friend? Or do you tell your best friend the truth? You tell them the truth, right? Because your best friend will accept you the way you are. Your best friend is okay about hearing about everything that you're going through and doing. Oh, your fiance, but then you went and had an affair with this one. Oh, okay. And your friend's not going to judge you. So as long as there's no judgment, people will speak the truth.
As long as we're not trying to conform to a rigid social structure that does not fit our heart, does not fit our desires.
Morality doesn't fit
lie
our
about.
heart. That's a great statement. Morality doesn't fit our heart. Morality construes our hearts and constricts our heart and makes liars out of us. Morality is the root cause of all evil. It's what makes us liars.
That's, well, take that, audience. Chew on that for a little while.
Really, what would life be like if we were immoral? Let's have that as a later discussion someday.
All right, we will.
Not morality. I think we need to explore that someday.
I agree. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Rohit.
Welcome. It was fun.